Hello everyone. So in this session, we'll be seeing the concept of internal audit. What is internal audit? What are for those? What are the entities for whom the internal audit applies? Who can be appointed as an internal auditor? What is the basic objective of an internal audit? So as we all know, what is an internal audit? So normally there is a lot of confusion regarding like what is internal audit, what is the difference between internal audit and a statutory audit. So both are kinds of audits, and why is there a difference? What is the main difference between an internal audit and a statutory audit? So this, like, I can give you through an example. So normally, like in our school days, say for example, in the school days we have our monthly tests, right? We have a unit test or weekly test or bi-weekly or monthly test. Finally, you'll be given the report card. You'll be having your grades and marks in that. So, and the teachers will be there who will be constantly evaluating your progress and through your examinations, suggesting you ways of improvement, giving you extra classes, and also asking your parents to meet in case there is no constant improvement in your marks or scores continuously. So all these things happen, right? Now, this teachers or your teachers within the school who are giving you a monthly or bi-weekly test as is who is identifying who is better in what subject, what is the points of improvement, how they can actually improve their score in certain subjects, how what are the weaknesses or what are the things that has to be improved by a particular student, how they should be more disciplined, all the inputs that will be given by your teachers. Now, internal audit, you can consider your class teachers or your teachers within the school as a internal audit. For example, I'll tell you why it's an internal audit, because these teachers or your teachers within the school are mainly evaluating you, or they are mainly reviewing your progress or giving you tips for your improvement, for personal improvement, guiding you on your studies, also guiding you through all the subjects, in trying to improve the score, making or giving you methods on how you can improve for the next test, how you can improve your how can improve as a overall personality, or different things will be given by the teachers. Now, internal audit is same as the teachers within the school. Now, say for example, your 10th or 12th board exams. Now, these papers are not corrected by your class teacher or by the teachers within your school. This is corrected by some persons whom you don't know or whom the school or the students don't know. It is collected by some other faculty who is appointed by the CBSE or ICSE board at the board exam level. Now, these people, say these kind of teachers or these external evaluators, they are not evaluating your performance or giving you tips for your overall improvement, but they are giving a report, or they are giving an opinion, or they are evaluating the performance as a whole. Depending on that marks which you obtain on the boards, you will be getting admission to a different kinds of colleges. So that is a kind of a report. This is a kind of a value add. Understood the difference? So this is a kind of value add, where that is a kind of a report where they are actually evaluating your performance. Evaluating. So similarly, internal audit is like the teachers within the school. This is a management function. It is a basic, or the basic objective of an internal audit is what? Continuous or appraisal of the functions of the entity. So what are the different functions carried out by the entity, whether the functions, what are the different objectives, whether the particular entity is fulfilling its objectives, business objective, what are the improvements they have to do, what are the value adds that can be given. Basically, three objectives is being fulfilled by the internal audit. One is your overall governance, one is risk assessment procedures, risk management, and the last is internal control. So three objectives: one with respect to governance mechanism, one with respect to risk management, and finally with respect to internal control. So it is an independent management function, similar to the teachers or similar to your own class teachers or within the school, teachers within the school who evaluate your performance, who give you tips on improvement, who gives you what are the different methods to score for the next exam, how you can improve your marks, how you can be disciplined, overall how you can improve as a person. All the tips will be given. So it will be like your governance mechanism, your risk management, your internal control, all these things will be covered by internal audit. It is a pure management function. It is an independent management function. Again, even though it is a management function, it is an independent function. So can I tell the teachers are evaluating? Does that mean can the teacher give you marks just like that? No. Again, it is a kind of an independent activity. It is not something that she does gives you mark on a bias or something. It is depending on what you write or how you present or what is the content that you give in your answer papers. You will be assessed accordingly. So again, it is an independent function. Though it is a management function, it is an independent one. Continuous appraisal, similar to how you are being evaluated. This is also a continuous and critical appraisal of the functioning of the entity. So suggesting improvements and value adds, and also basically 3 objectives. One is your governance mechanism. Overall governance mechanism will be strengthening the overall governance mechanism, risk management, and finally the internal controls. So basically 3 of the effectiveness of ensuring internal controls are effective. Effectiveness of internal controls. Review of internal controls. Now, can any person be appointed as an internal auditor? Normally, we have a criteria like who can be appointed as an internal auditor. So either it could be a chartered accountant, it could be also be a cost accountant, either in practice or in employment. It need not be in practice. It could be a person who is not in practice also. So it could be a chartered accountant, or it could be also a cost accountant, or it could be any other professional. It need not be a cost accountant or chartered accountant. It could be also any other professional as decided by the board of directors, as decided by the board to conduct the internal audit function. So it can also be an employee of the company. So in certain banks, if you see, there will be one kind of, it could be internal auditor, any retired officers, bank officers or branch managers. Retired officers will also be appointed as an internal auditor, concurrent auditor. So it could be either an employee of the organizational company, or it may not be. It depends from entity to entity depending on what decisions they have taken. So it could be either a chartered accountant, cost accountant, whether in practice or not, or any other professional as decided by the board. So these are the list of people who can be appointed as an internal auditor of that particular company. Now, who should appoint? Now we see who can be appointed, which companies or to whom does this particular internal audit apply. So again, as per Companies Act, we have certain set of companies on which they have to mandatorily appoint an internal auditor. Internal audit should take place in such kind of companies. So we'll see what are the different companies. So as per section 138 of Companies Act 2013, there are certain set class of companies who is required to appoint an internal auditor. So mandatorily these companies has to appoint an internal auditor, either a firm or an individual internal auditor. But these are the set of companies they have to mandatorily appoint one. One is all the listed companies, every listed company, they have to mandatorily do internal audit, submit the internal audit report. So internal audit has to be done, internal auditor has to be appointed, every listed company. There is no doubt about that. Next two sections is with respect to unlisted companies and private companies. So within unlisted companies, you have certain criteria. So any unlisted company which fulfills these criteria has to again appoint an auditor, and also any kind of a private company who also fulfill certain criteria will also have to appoint the internal auditor. So what is with respect to unlisted company? So any listed company they have to appoint anyway. Unlisted company, every unlisted public company. Now with respect to the criterias, there are few criteria with respect to your share capital, with respect to turnover, with respect to loans, deposits. So all this depending on what is the value or what is the total amount with respect to the preceding financial year. They take the preceding financial year figure, and with respect to that they are deciding whether they are eligible or whether they are coming under the provision or section 138 of Companies Act to appoint the internal auditor. So all these they are checking for the preceding financial year. So first criteria with respect to unlisted public company is, one is having a paid up share capital. So paid up share capital should be 50 crores or more during the preceding financial. So everything whatever I am saying is during the preceding financial year. So during the preceding financial year, it could be 50 crores or more. If it is more than that or equal to 50 crores, then they have to appoint the internal auditor. Each and every condition, what I am saying is not and, it is or. So if any of the conditions is being fulfilled by the company or any of the conditions are met by the company also, they will have to appoint an internal auditor even though the other conditions are not being fulfilled. Any one condition fulfilled also, they have to appoint or they have to conduct the internal audit. So one is your, with respect to your paid up share capital, it should be 50 crores or more during the preceding financial year. Second is with respect to turnover. Turnover should be 200 crores or more. So 200 crores or more again with respect to preceding financial year. Next, with respect to your loans. So loans and borrowing. So any loans or borrowing that is outstanding. It could be either from bank or it could be from public financial institution. If it is outstanding and that amount, outstanding amount is exceeding 100 crore rupees at any point of time during the financial year, preceding financial year also, they have to appoint the internal. In this class, all the other conditions, it was during the financial year, preceding financial year, paid up share capital 50 crores or more, turnover 200 crores or more, anything. But with respect to your loans or borrowings, it is not, it is specifically mentioned at any point of time during the preceding financial year and outstanding from banks or public. Say for example, the total amount of loans or borrowing that is outstanding is say 105 crores from a public financial institution. This amount is outstanding at the beginning of the financial year, but towards the end of the financial year, total amount outstanding is say 50 lakhs, less than 100 crores. Still, this particular organization or this particular entity will have to appoint an internal audit because it is not at the end of the financial year. So if it was at the end of the financial year, total outstanding loans and borrowings was less than 100 crores. It was only 50 lakhs. But it is at any point of time during the preceding financial year. So at the beginning of the financial year, it is more than 100 crores. So it falls under any point of time during the financial year and hence it follows or satisfies the criteria for appointment of internal auditor. Clear? And the next one is with respect to deposits. Outstanding deposits. So outstanding deposits is 25 crores or more. If it is more than 25 crores or more at any point. Similarly, this clause also has a point any point of time during the preceding financial year. So again, they have to appoint the internal auditor. So for an unlisted public company, it has to satisfy any of the four conditions. One with respect to your total share capital, that is 50 crores or more during the preceding financial year. Turnover 200 crores or more during the preceding financial year. Outstanding loans and borrowings. Loans or borrowings, not loans and borrowing. Loans or borrowings. Outstanding loans or borrowings from any banks or financial institution. It is more than 100 crores at any point of time during the financial year, or your total outstanding deposits is 25 crores or more at any point of time during the preceding financial year. So if any one of the following four conditions are met also, they have to appoint the internal auditor. So it is not an and or aggregation of all the conditions, but it is each and every condition is individually. If it is there satisfied, then they have to appoint. So anyone one condition satisfied, other conditions are not satisfied also, they have to appoint the internal auditor. Now Similarly, with respect to private company, we don't have conditions with respect to, since it is a private company, with respect to deposits and share capital is not there, but we still have the two conditions with respect to turnover and outstanding loans and borrowing. So again, for private company also two conditions has to be satisfied. One is with respect to turnover less 200 crores or more during the preceding financial year, and also your loans and borrowings, that is 100 crores or more at any point of time during the preceding financial year has to be complied with. So basically there are three applicability of this particular section 138 of Companies Act with respect to internal audit, either appointing an internal auditor or a firm of chartered accountants or a firm has to satisfy certain conditions. Any of the following, either it is a every listed company has to comply with that, every listed public company has to comply with that. Unlisted public company means once this particular any of the four conditions with respect to turnover, share capital, outstanding loans or deposits, any of the particular conditions are satisfied, also they have to appoint a statutory auditor. And with respect to private company, only two conditions with respect to turnover and outstanding loans. So this within 6 months from the commencement of section, the particular company already covered means it has to comply with the particular criteria. Now, what is the main objective of internal audit? So as I already told you, there are three basic objectives. One with respect to strengthening the governance mechanism. Second is with respect to risk management, and third is with respect to internal control. So basically there are three basic objectives of internal audit: strengthening the governance, relating to risk management, and relating to internal control. So relating to internal control, we have few objectives. One is with respect to evaluation of internal control, then your examination of financial operating information, and few others. So we'll see one by one what are the different objectives of an internal auditor, what is the main objective of internal audit function. So the first objective is with respect to governance. So already I told you governance means the working of the particular organization. So how effectively the particular organization is able to accomplish its objectives with respect to ethics and values, with respect to its performance management, how the management is performing, who is accountable for what, whether there is a line of accountability already put forward, whether there is a designation, whether there is a proper DOA defined, delegation of authority is defined, how the risk and the controls, what are the different kinds of risk and control mechanisms, how it is being communicated to the particular areas, whether there is any proper whistleblower mechanism. Whistleblowers are any employees who can actually report any kind of fraud or any kind of error that is happening within the entity, or any kind of a review, constant periodic reviews that is happening within the entity. So how the risk and control information is being communicated, and what is the effectiveness of such communication, any kind of action is being taken by the particular management or those charged with governance as a response to these kind of communications that is happening. So what is the effectiveness of communication with respect to the TCWG, those charged with governance, auditors, internal auditors, and management, external auditors. So basically with respect to governance, we have few. One is accomplishing how the objectives are being fulfilled with respect to ethics and values. Secondly, with respect to accountability of the management, then communicating the risk and control information, and finally with respect to governance, external and internal auditors. Second is with respect to risk management. What is it with respect to risk management? So as with respect to risk management, it is basically identifying the risk. What are the risk? How the risk is assessed, identification and assessing the risk. What is the impact? What is the significance of that particular risk? What are the exposures? What are the different areas which is getting exposed to that particular risk? How this particular risk management or this process can be improved? what are the effectiveness or improvement effectiveness of the entire reporting process, what are the internal financial controls, what are the effectiveness on the financial reporting, and how the particular entity is detecting the frauds or any kind of error. So basically this activity of risk management is mainly to review, identify and assess the fraud, what are the significant exposures, what are the risk management process that is adopted by the particular management, how it could be improved, what are the improvements that could be suggested with respect to risk management, how they can effectively manage the risk, make sure that the risk is at a very acceptably low level within the company's or entity's risk appetite, what are the different methods of identification of frauds and errors within the entity. So this is the second one is with respect to risk management. The next one is with respect to internal control. That is the last one. What are the different methods of internal control? So, what are the different activities relating to internal control? So, basically, we are divided into four. One is evaluating the internal control. Secondly, reviewing the financial and operating information. Then again, examination and reviewing the same, the financial and operating information, reviewal of operational information, and last one with respect to compliance with respect to regulatory or laws and regulations. So first, with respect to review of or evaluating the internal control, the basic responsibility of the auditor is with respect to reviewing the controls. So how they are performing, evaluating the performance, reviewing the controls, seeking information from the staff, coordinating with them, asking them information to evaluate the operation of the controls and giving improvements. Whether the particular internal control would suffice is sufficient for that particular entity. Second is with respect to your financial and operating information. So with respect to financial and operating information, what are the procedures it is adopted by the management to record the transactions, to record the transaction, to measure or classify and report the information. So what are the methods it is adopted, procedure adopted? So those procedures will be again reviewed by them, and also testing the transactions and all. Again, re-performances again. So here basically this is not a very easy or a quick job, because it is a detailed examination. Again, it is a detailed examination, testing the transactions, reviewing the procedures adopted by the management, any kind of flaws in the process or any kind of improvements that has to be suggested is also given by the internal auditor. And the next is with respect to operating activities. Operating activities means what? Basically, when with respect to operating activities, we look into three aspects. One is economy, effectiveness, and efficiency. So economy means what? Whether all the activities are in the entity are carried out in an economical manner within the budget that has been put forward. Whether there is a proper utilization of resources, that is efficiency, proper utilization of resources, whether all the objectives are achieved within the given timelines and given return on investment is obtained, that is your effectiveness. So basically, review of operating activities combines three things: reviewing the economy, effectiveness and efficiency. Economy with respect to whether the operations or whether the activities are carried out in an economical manner, they are sticking to the budget that is within the approved budget. Efficiency is with respect to whether there is proper utilization of resources that is there, whether there is a proper whether the particular business objectives are achieved within the time limit set within the time. Effectiveness operation, proper return on investment is obtained, everything will be checked in the third one. Reviewing the operating activities. And finally, compliance with the laws and regulations. So any kind of compliance requirements, say it could be legal, regulatory, or maybe even within the company also, the policies and procedures, how the employees or within the company, how the management policies and directives are being complied to. So basically your internal control activities relating to the internal control will be basically divided into four. One is evaluating the control, how effective the controls are, that is by reviewing the controls, evaluating the performance and effectiveness of the controls, improving, giving recommendations on improvement, Second is with respect to examination of financial and operating information. Financial and operating information. Third is with respect to operating activities, review of operating activities, and finally review of compliance with laws and regulations. So four of them will be included in internal control, activities leading to internal control, the other two being governance and the risk management, strengthening the governance mechanism and the risk management. And taking in view the huge importance with respect to internal audit, there are n number of compliance requirements as per Companies Act. Who internal audit is applicable to what class of entities, who has to be appointed as internal auditor. Our Institute of Chartered Accountants of India has also constituted a committee on internal audit. Again, they have actually come up with a set of standards. 18 standards are there. These standards are basically best practices. These are the best practices, or these are kind of what has to be done, or how internal audit has to be conducted, explanatory in nature, how internal audit has to be conducted. So all the best practices and standards are adopted. So this is one benchmark, kind of a benchmark, how it is a kind of a guidance to the persons who are conducting internal audit. So we have 18 such standards that has been recently given. So that is also there in the study mat. 18 kind of standards exclusively for internal audit. Standards on internal audit. It's not standards on auditing, standards on internal audit. So taking into consideration the huge importance or huge necessity for doing internal audits, importance attached to it, there is a separate standard also that has been introduced, that is your standards on internal auditing, 18 standards incorporating the best practices and measures to be adopted. So this chapter, we have come to a conclusion of this chapter, risk assessment, internal control. We saw internal control, what are the different aspects, what is risk, what are the different types of risk, what is control, internal control, what is internal financial control, what is an internal audit. So next chapter we will see about the frauds relating to audit. So we'll see in the next session. So this session is like almost everything is covered in the session. So we'll see for the next session.